The marriage register goes on the fire tonight, miss. Her ladyship was particular about tonight. Mr. Corbett said it from the doorway of the muniment room with a brass hearth basket in his arms, and he did not come in. He had been steward at Ambersay for 19 years, and he had never once crossed that threshold without being asked. Honoria Weld came down the shelf ladder with a bundle of leases under her arm. Which register? St. Aldhelm Marriages, 1784 through to 1812. That book is not the estate's to burn. It belongs to the parish. It was lodged here in the year 4 when the church chest rotted, and it has been here since. He looked at the basket rather than at her. There is a paper for it. Then I should like to read the paper. He gave it to her. Half a sheet, 4 lines, and at the bottom of it a blot of black wax, with the Ambersay stag pressed into it, the antlers clean, the seal that opened doors in 3 counties. Damp, rotten, and of no further use, she read aloud. To be destroyed this night. That is what it says. It is not damp, rotten. I dried it myself in June, and I noted the day I did it. She set the paper on the record table. Who gave you this? It come to me sealed. That is not the same answer, Misty. Corbett, no, miss, he said. It is not. He waited. She looked at the green kindling in his basket and thought that a man who truly meant to burn a bound book at 11 o'clock at night would have brought dry. Leave the basket, she said. Go to bed. I will do it myself, and I will do it as it should be done, and you will not have to say you watched it. His shoulders came down an inch. The order says tonight. The order says tonight. It does not say in front of you. He set the basket down inside the door, which was the furthest he had ever come, and went. She listened to him along the passage, and to the clock in the stone hall, and when the house had settled, she took the little brass key from the chain at her waist and opened the chest under the window. The register was a heavy quarto in calf, and it opened flat because it had been made to. The entries were on printed forms, 4 to the page, each one signed by the parties and by 2 witnesses in their own hands, which was the whole reason a marriage register was worth anything at all. Her father had taught her that before he taught her to write. She turned to the year she had been thinking about since the paper came into her hand, and she found the page, and she read the line at the foot of it twice. Then she cut a quill, and wet it, and wrote out a fair copy of that one line onto a slip of writing paper. The names, the day, the month, the year, and the 2 witnesses under it. She sanded it, and shook the sand off and folded it once. The ink was still shining when a boot scraped in the passage. You have a light, a man's voice said. At this hour in that room, that is either a fire or a burglary. Tobias Reedy, 6th Duke of Ambersay, stood in the doorway holding a lamp too low so that it lit his hands and his cravat and left his face in the dark above it. He had come home in March, and the house still did not know what to do with him. It is neither, Your Grace. That is a relief. I have had a poor week for both. He came in. Nobody came into the muniment room. What are you doing? Working at 11. The room is cooler at 11. It is cooler at 4 in the morning also. I do not find that a reason. He put the lamp on the record table, and the light went up her apron and her sleeve, and stopped at her hand, and he looked at the hand, and she watched him see that the 2 first fingers were wet to the nail. You have been writing. I keep the books. It is a thing that happens. It is. He did not move away. He was a full arm's length from her, and it did not feel like a full arm's length. Miss Weld, do you know that in 5 months nobody in this house has told me a single thing before I asked for it? That is not true, Your Grace. Mrs. Hurst told you about the roof. Mrs. Hurst told me the roof had fallen in. That is not telling me about the roof. No, she said. It is not. Something went across his mouth that was not quite a smile, and did not get to be one. She found she had folded her own hands, the thumb pressed flat, which was what she did instead of anything else. There is a commission at noon tomorrow, he said. Mr. Bassett, 2 trustees, a proctor sent down from London, and Dr. Amory, who will fall asleep. They are to examine the muniments of this house, because my brother's widow has petitioned to have her son sit in my chair. I had heard something of it. You had heard something of it, he repeated. Everyone in this house had heard something. I was informed by my own solicitor 11 days after the petition was lodged. They will want the marriage books. Yes, are they in order? She had 1 clear second in which to hand him the folded slip in her apron and the paper with his own seal on it, and be done. They are in order, Your Grace. Good, he picked up the lamp. At the door he stopped. You are the only person here who says yes and no. I want you to keep doing it, even when the answer is one I would rather not have. That may be sooner than you think. I count on it, said the Duke of Ambersay, and took the light away with him and left her in the dark, with the register open and the slip warm in her apron. She did not burn the book. She put it back in the chest and turned the key and lay awake over the stable arch until the sky went grey. Lady Ottoline Marchmont came to the muniment room at 8, which was 2 hours before she was ever awake, in lilac silk, with her rings on. Miss Weld, you did not do as you were asked. I was not asked, my lady. I was ordered, on a paper that was not signed. It carried the seal. It carried a seal. It did not carry a hand. Honoria set down the pen. Anybody may press wax. Only one man may sign his name. Ottiline crossed to the window and looked out at the roses as though she had bought them. You have kept this room since your father died. 2 winters, on £40 a year and 2 rooms over an arch that smells of horses. Do you know what my son is called in the servants' hall? The boy, 9 years old, in his own grandfather's house, and he is the boy. I know what he is called. I have never called him it. No, Ottoline said, you have not. That is why I am here and not sending Corbett. She turned round. There is a certificate in my petition sworn and enrolled of my marriage to Lord Allard at St. Aldhelm on the 11th of May, 1807. It is a good certificate. It wants nothing. Except that the parish book in that chest says something else, and a book beats a paper, and you know it better than any lawyer in this county. Then you have told me why you wanted it burned. I have told you why it would be a kindness to a child if it were. Ottoline's voice did not rise. It never rose. Ambersay has a cottage at Chalke standing empty, with a garden and a good hearth, and £80 a year for your life, and a cart to move your father's books. You would never again ask a duke for a coal scuttle. And the register would be found to have been damp rotten, which is what the paper said, and which I dare say it is, under the fold. Honoria looked at the woman a moment longer than was civil. My lady, when my father was dying, he could not remember my mother's face. He remembered where every deed in this house was, and on what shelf, and in what hand. That is what he had instead. If I take your cottage in 10 years, there is nobody alive who knows what that book said. And then it did not say it. That is very fine. It is not fine at all. It is only my trade. She picked the pen back up. The commission sits at noon. I will lay out the muniments as I always have, in the order they are called for, and I will answer what I am asked. You will regret being clever in a room full of men who dislike it. I have never once been thought clever in this house, Honoria said. I have been thought careful. I have a mind to see what happens if the two are the same thing. At noon, the muniment room was fuller than it had been in 40 years. She had laid it out at 9, the long record table swept and waxed, the estate books shelved in date order, the tied bundles of vellum squared at the corners, and the grate at the far end swept out and empty, because a room that holds the only copy of anything should have no fire in it in summer. The trustees sat. Doctor, Emery took the warm end and began at once to look sleepy. Mr. Bassett had the petition in front of him, and the enrolled certificate with it, in a paper sleeve. Miss Weld will produce the muniments as they are called for, he said. She has the keys. She has the keys, said the proctor, who had come down from London and had not enjoyed the road. Is there nobody else who has them? There are 3, Honoria said. The rector holds one, Mr. Bassett holds one, and I hold one, and no chest in this room opens without all 3. That is the arrangement my father made in 1804, and I have not altered it. They began with the settlements. They went on to the leases. Lady Ottoline sat behind the Duke's right shoulder in lilac silk, with her hands quiet in her lap, and the old ladies of the neighborhood, who had come because a duke's succession is better than a fair, leaned in from the shadow at the far end. Mrs. Hurst had her spectacles pushed up into her cap. At 12:30, Mr. Bassett cleared his throat and said, "Then the marriage register of St. Aldhelm, if you please." And the door opened, because it was noon, and he had been told noon, and Mr. Corbett came in 3 steps with the brass hearth basket in his arms and green kindling standing up out of it, and stopped. Nobody in the room looked at him except the Duke, and the Duke looked at the basket for a long moment and then at Honoria. She had already turned the key. She brought the register to the long table and set it down open, flat, in a white bar of window light, well clear of the empty grate, and laid her left hand across the page to hold it flat. This is the marriage register of the parish of St. Aldhelm, she said. 1784 to 1812. It has been in the chest in this room since the year 4. Before I open it further, I must say something to this commission, and I would rather say it standing up. Say it, said the Duke. Last night at 11 o'clock I was brought an order, sealed with the Ambersay stag, directing me to burn this book before morning. The room made the sound a room makes. That is an extraordinary statement, the proctor said. It is. Here is the paper. She laid it on the table beside the register. It is unsigned. I did not burn the book. But I did not know at 11 o'clock last night whether I would be permitted to keep it until noon. And I am the keeper of the records of this house, and so I did the only thing my trade allows. With her right hand, she lifted the folded slip up to her shoulder, and opened it, and held it high in the hard white light from the window, where every person in the room could see it, and the wet ink on it shone. I made a fair copy of one line. The Duke put out his bare right hand and set it flat on the wood, a hand's width short of hers, and stopped it there. Their 2 hands stood on either side of the slip, with an inch of sunlight between them. Neither of them moved back. Read it, he said. Behind his shoulder, Lady Ottoline had gone very straight and very white. The entry stands at the foot of the page for the summer of 1809, Honoria said. Allard Rede, bachelor of this parish, and Ottoline Marchmont, spinster of this parish, were married in this church by license, this 22nd day of June, 1809. Signed in their own hands, witnessed by the sexton and by the rector's clerk. Doctor, Amory was not asleep anymore. That is impossible, the proctor said, and put his finger on the enrolled certificate. The petition swears to the 11th of May, in the year 7. I know what it swears to. I have read it twice, in the office copy, in June. Then one of them is false, yes, Honoria said. One of them is. 2 of the trustees came half out of their chairs. The footman in the doorway stood with a tray of glasses and did not put it down. Mrs. Hurst's spectacles came off her cap altogether, and Mr. Bassett, who had served this family for 30 years and had a very slow voice for very fast arithmetic, said what everybody in the room had already got to, and nobody had yet dared to say out loud. Master Julian was baptized at St. Aldhelm on the 3rd of March, 1808. He was, Honoria said. The baptism book is here also, and nobody has touched it, and nobody disputes it. Then the child was born a year and 3 months before that wedding. 1 year, 3 months, and 19 days, she said. I counted it at midnight, because I did not want to be the person who got it wrong. Lady Ottoline rose. She did it beautifully. She had been rising out of chairs in front of hostile rooms since she was 17. That book is a forgery, she said, and I will tell you exactly who wrote it. My lady, Mr. Bassett began. It has been kept for 11 years by one servant and for 2 years by his daughter, in a locked room, out of the sight of the family, and it produces itself at noon on the day my son's claim is heard, wet. She looked at the slip in Honoria's raised hand. Look at it. The ink is not dry. Everything in this room is old except the evidence. The copy is wet, Honoria said. The entry is not. It was signed 8 years ago in a hand your ladyship will recognize, because it is your own. I never wrote in that book. Then that will be simple to show, and I will help to show it, and I will hand you the glass myself. She folded the slip and did not put it away. But you have made a graver mistake than the date, my lady, and I think you know it. You told a servant to burn a parish register. There is another one. The room did not follow her. She had not expected it to. She was watching one face only, and the Duke was watching hers, and he had not taken his hand off the table. Another register? The proctor said. Another copy, said Honoria Weld. Every parish in England sends the bishop a transcript of its register once a year, and has done since before the Armada, and the diocese keeps them. Whatever burns in Wiltshire, the duplicate is at Salisbury, in a cupboard 22 miles away, and it has been there for 7 years, and it belongs neither to the family nor to me, and nobody in this house can reach it. Nobody spoke. Adjourn, the proctor said at last. This commission will sit again when the diocesan copy has been examined, and I will send for it myself, over my own signature, and I would be obliged if no gentleman here wrote to Salisbury before I did. They went out slowly, the way people do when they are pretending not to have enjoyed something. Missa. Corbett was still standing 3 steps inside the door with the basket held against his chest. Missa. Corbett, the Duke said, without raising his voice at all. Put that down and go and wait for me in the steward's room. Yes, your grace. And Corbett, You will tell me who gave you the paper. Not now, when you have had 2 hours to be frightened of the wrong thing." Then the room was empty except for the two of them and the open book, and the Duke looked at the sealed order lying beside it and picked it up. He turned it to the light. He put his thumb on the wax and did not press. "Miss Weld," he said, "this is my seal. I know. You have known since 11 o'clock last night. Yes, you stood in this room at midnight and told me the books were in order." "I did." "Why?" "Because I did not know whether you had written it," she said, "and if you had, I wanted the copy made before you knew I had made it." He was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, once, as though it had been startled out of him, and he had not given it permission. "That," he said, "is the first honest thing anybody has said to me in this house since March." "Do not thank me for it yet," she said. "Where is that seal kept?" "In my father's writing box, in the yellow closet off the long gallery with his spectacles and his stubs of sealing wax and a lock of my mother's hair. I have not opened it since March. I could not. Who has the key to the closet?" He did not answer for a moment. "My brother's widow has had the keys of that side of the house for 6 years, he said. She nursed him through 6 winters. Nobody else would sit up with him. He gave her the keys himself, and I was in Spain, and I did not come home. Then it is not a mystery, Your Grace. It is only a thing nobody wanted to look at." "No," he set the paper down. "Miss Weld, be plain with me. If Corbett had been a harder man last night, and had stood in this room until the book was ash, what would you have had? A slip of paper and my word. Which is nothing." "Which is nothing," she agreed. "That is why I told them about Salisbury in front of 11 people instead of telling you in this room in private. A thing that only one person knows can be got rid of by getting rid of one person." He looked at her for so long that she made herself keep her eyes level. "You are frightened," he said. "I am careful. They are cousins." Mr. Corbett was in the steward's room at 3, standing, though there was a chair. "Sit down, man. I had rather stand, Your Grace." "Then do not." The Duke leaned against the shutter. "Who gave you the paper?" "Her Ladyship." "Say the whole of it." "Her Ladyship gave it me in the still room at 9, sealed, and told me it come from Your Grace, and that I was not to trouble you with it, because you had enough on you." Corbett's hands were behind his back like a boy's, and I knew it never come from you. "Will you say what you have said to me, to the proctor? On oath, with her Ladyship in the room?" The steward looked at the floor for a while. "No," he said. "Why not? Because I have a wife and a daughter married in this parish, and 40 years' character, and her Ladyship will be here when Your Grace's business is settled one way or the other, and she will be here after. I will not swear to it. I have told you the truth once, and I will not tell it twice." "That is a coward's answer, Miss Corbett," Honoria said. "It is, miss," he said. "I know what it is." The Duke pushed off the shutter. "Then you will do one honest thing instead. You will go on being steward of this house, and you will keep the yellow closet locked, and you will give the key of it to Miss Weld tonight, and if anybody asks you where it went, you will say the Duke has it. That is not swearing. That is carrying a key." Corbett looked up. "That I will do." "Get out." When the door was shut, Honoria said, "You should have broken him. He would have gone in 10 minutes. He would have gone in 5, the Duke said, and he would have hated me for 30 years, and I have to live here." He rubbed his ear, the left one, the deaf one. I have already commanded frightened men into a hedge once. I would rather not spend the rest of my life doing it in drawing rooms. Lady Ottoline sent for him after dinner, and she sent for Honoria too, which was the cleverest thing she did that week. The small drawing room was the coolest room in the house, and she had the shutters half closed, so the light came in bars. "I will be short," she said. "I will withdraw the petition." "Will you?" the Duke said, "on 3 conditions, and I ask you to hear all 3 before your temper does anything for you." She counted them off against her rings. "Julian is acknowledged as your brother's son, which he is, and provided for out of the estate, 1,200 a year, with Chalky and the farms on that side. Second, no information is laid against anybody, for anything, ever. And third, you marry my niece Perdita Marchmont in the spring. The Duke did not move. Perdita has £30,000 and an aunt who will never again be able to trouble you," Ottoline said. "You get your chair, your name, a quiet county, and a wife who will do it properly. I get a boy who is not called the boy. Nobody is ruined. Nobody stands in a court and says the word forgery out loud. And Miss Weld, said Ottoline without turning her head, keeps the muniment room for the rest of her life, and is very well liked, and is trusted with everything, and is never once asked to dinner." It was so exactly true that Honoria felt it go in under the ribs. "Say the rest of it," the Duke said. "There is no rest of it." "There is. You have not told me what happens if I say no." Ottoline smiled at him with real affection, which was the frightening part. "If you say no, then you have chosen a public examination," she said. "And in a public examination I shall not be defending my marriage lines. I shall be attacking that book." And the book was written on by one servant of this house for 11 years together, and kept by his daughter in a locked room. And that daughter is a young woman of no fortune, who has been alone with you in this house at 11 at night. I have not made that up, Tobias. Corbett saw the light. So did 2 housemaids. Get to it. I will say your archivist forged the entry to please you, and half of Wiltshire will believe it before I have finished the sentence, because it is a better story than mine, and it costs them nothing to believe. She spread her hands. You cannot win that with the truth. There is no evidence in the world that beats a pretty explanation people enjoy. There is one, Honoria said. Yes, Ottoline said, 22 miles away in a cupboard, and Salisbury is a town full of clerks on £90 a year. The Duke crossed to the window and opened the shutter, and the evening came in and spoiled her lighting entirely. No, he said. Think for a night. I have thought. He turned round. Ottoline, I will settle Julian tomorrow morning, out of my own money, whatever the commission finds, and it shall be in writing, and you may have Chalky on a lease of 99 years. That is not a condition, and I will not trade it. I am doing it because Allard asked me to, and because the boy did nothing. That is generous. And the third condition? I will not marry a woman I have never spoken to for 4 minutes together to buy my own name back. Why not? Because I have had 2 things in 11 years that I chose, he said. One was a battery of guns, and the other was a dog. I am not going to make it 3 by letting you choose the third. Ottoline looked from him to Honoria and back again, and something in her face put itself away for later. Very well, she said. Then we will do it in front of everybody, and everybody will have their money's worth. If you've made it this far into the story, and you want to know what a woman with a key, a slip of paper, and no fortune at all takes out of a cupboard in Salisbury, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and turn the bell on. Misty, Bassett had the enrolled certificate on his table at 9 the next morning, and he was not pleased to be asked for it. It is an office copy of a copy, Miss Weld. It proves nothing either way. An office copy is engrossed from the original. Somebody had the original in his hands to engross it. I want to look at the hand. Why? Because I have spent 11 years looking at the hands of dead clerks, she said, and it is the only thing I am good at, and you are about to need somebody who is good at it. He gave it to her, because he was tired. The certificate was a single sheet, well written, in a round upright hand with a long tail to the G and a curious flat crossbar on the double T, and a habit of finishing a line with a small firm stop even where no stop was wanted. She had been taught to write by a man who did that. She had been made to do it 100 times on a slate before she was 7, because a clerk who does not close his lines leaves room for other people. Miss Weld, may I take it to the window? You may not take it anywhere. Are you unwell? No, she put the certificate down on his blotter and squared it with 2 fingers, because her hands wanted something to do. Mr. Bassett, is there a date on the paper itself? A maker's mark in the sheet when you hold it up? He held it up. He was an old man and he did it slowly and without interest, and then he stopped. There is a watermark, he said. What does it say? It says 1811. The clock in the stone hall struck the quarter. Honoria stood in the solicitor's little room at Ambersay, with her hands flat on the table, and did the sum that anybody in that room could have done. Then, the certificate cannot have been written in the year 7. Mr. Bassett said. It was written at the earliest in the year 11, and dated back 4 years. Yes, Miss Weld, this is the end of the petition. This is the whole of it. Yes, Honoria said. You do not look like a woman who has just won. I am tired, she said, which was the first lie she had told him in 2 years, and she took the certificate back to the window after all and held it up herself, and looked through her father's handwriting at the light. He found her that night under the stable arch, sitting on the mounting block with the certificate copy in her lap and the Swifts going over. Mrs. Hurst says you have not eaten. Mrs. Hurst says a great deal. She does. He sat down on the step below her, which no duke had done in that yard in living memory, and put his hat on the flags. Ask me about my brother. Everyone in the county has wanted to for 5 months and nobody has, and I am tired of being handled. Where was he? On the reverse slope with the 27th, at about 6 in the evening. I was 200 yards off with the guns. He looked at his hands. I did not see it. I heard about it at 9 the next morning from a surgeon who had cut his coat off. Then you did not fail him. That is what people say to me. It is a kind thing and it is not the point. He turned his head so his good ear was to her. In April of the year 15 in Brussels, before any of it, he took me into a doorway out of the rain and said, If I go, see to the boy. Not the estate. Not Ottoline. The boy. And I said yes, and I have thought about that doorway every week for 2 years. He knew, Honoria said. He knew. He must have known the date of his own wedding, and he must have known what it meant, and he never said the rest of it. The Duke rubbed the deaf ear. So there it is. If your book is right, and I believe it is, then I keep my chair by proving my brother's son is nobody. That is the whole of my inheritance, a hall, 4,000 acres, and a 9-year-old to explain it to. You have already settled him. I have settled money on him. Money is not what Allard asked for. The Swifts went round again. She should have said it then. She had the words made and standing in order, as she made everything. Your Grace Tobias, I cannot call you that. You can. Nobody is here. Say it once, and then go back to Grace, if you like it better. Tobias, she said. He turned his head. And for the length of one breath his hand came up, and stopped, and hung in the air a very little way from her jaw, close enough that she felt the warmth off the palm of it, and the dark stopped moving, and he took it back and put it flat on his own knee, and neither of them said anything about it at all. There is a thing I must tell you, she said, and I am going to want a day first. Take the day. You do not know what it is. No. He picked up his hat. Take the day anyway. I have been given a great many things in my life by people who wanted something back within the hour, and I find I dislike the practice. She took the day and spent the night of it at her father's desk. It stood in the window bay of the muniment room, an old knee-hole desk with a stain on the leather where he had upset the ink in the year of the comet. She had kept his pens. She had kept his glass, and his knife, and the little box of pounce that had gone hard. In the third drawer, under the ruled paper, was a single sheet folded twice. On it, 11 times in a round upright hand, were the words, "Married in this church by license this 11th day of May." The first 3 were her father's own writing. The next 4 leaned. The last 4 did not lean at all, and had a curious flat crossbar on the double T that she had seen that morning on Mr. Bassett's blotter. She sat with it until the candle went down an inch. Then she got up and took the daybook for the year 11 out of the chest, and opened it, and found the stub. One leaf had been cut out close to the sewing with a sharp knife, and the cut edge was white. Paper that has been open to the air for 6 years goes the color of weak tea at the edge. This edge was as white as the day it was made. Somebody had taken that page out of the book in this house within the last month. "You are up," the Duke said from the door. She had not heard him. She put her hand flat on the daybook. "I am up." "Is that the day?" "Not yet. You have been crying." "I have been reading a bad hand by a poor light," she said, and the two looked the same. He stood in the doorway a moment. He did not come in, and afterwards she thought that was the kindest thing anybody had done for her in her life. "Then I will go to bed," he said, "and be told tomorrow." He was not told tomorrow. On the Thursday 9 unsigned letters went round the county in a clerk's hand nobody knew, and by dark there was not a house between Ambersay and Devizes that had not had one read to it. By Friday morning Mr. Bassett was in the muniment room, and he could not look at her. "The trustees have desired me to take the keys," he said. "All 3? Yours, the rector keeps his. I keep mine." He put out his hand and did not lift his eyes. "It is not a judgment, Miss Weld. It is a precaution, and it is what I would advise if you were my client, and I am ashamed of it." She took the little brass key off the chain at her waist. It came away lighter than she expected. "Mr. Bassett, when they examine the book, do not let anybody take it out of this room. Not to a table in the library, not for an hour. If it leaves this room, it can be helped, and then it will not matter what it says." "You are giving me instructions about custody while I am confiscating your keys." "Yes," she said. "That is my trade. I have not got another one." That was when the Duke came in, with the letter in his fist, and the room got smaller. "Who has one of these?" "9 people, Your Grace," Bassett said. Then 9 people are going to be told, by me on my feet, in their own hall, that Miss Weld had the register in her hands for 8 hours with a burning order, and did not burn it, and that I will name the woman who wrote it out. You will do none of that, Honoria said. Both men looked at her. You will not defend me in the county, she said. Not this week. Not in any hall. Give me a reason. Because every hour you spend telling Wiltshire that I am honest, you are telling Wiltshire that you are interested in whether I am. She set the chain, empty, on the table. The letter says I am a poor woman who hopes to be thanked. If a duke rides round the county with his colour up defending me, the letter is proved, not disproved. Proved, I do not care for that arithmetic. You do not have to. You only have to lose by it. She held herself very straight, because her legs were not entirely her own. There is only one thing that answers that letter, and it is neither you nor me. It is a document that neither of us has ever touched. Then I will send to Salisbury today. You cannot. The proctor forbade any gentleman of this house to write to Salisbury, and if the transcript comes into this cause by your hand, it is your evidence, and her ladyship will say so, and she will be right. She looked at him then. And there is the other thing, which is the day I asked for. The false certificate was written by my father. Nobody in the room moved. I found his practice sheet last night in his own desk. 11 lines. He was learning somebody else's hand, and he was learning it badly at first, which is how I know it was him and not a professional. Her voice was doing what she told it to, which surprised her. So you cannot defend me, Your Grace. You would be defending a forger's daughter with her father's ink in the case, and you would be doing it in public, and you would lose your name for a servant. That is my name to lose. It is not, she said. It is Allard's boys, and it is this house's, and it will be wanted long after the pair of us. She untied the record-keeper's apron and folded it over the back of the chair. I resign the muniments of Ambersaye. Mr. Bassett has the keys. I will be out of the room by noon and out of the arch by 6. Honoria, do not, she said, or I shall not get through the door. And she did get through the door, and she did not look at him as she went past, and she heard him say her name once more behind her in an empty room with nobody in it to be impressed. She had to go out through the stone hall, which at noon in August is the brightest room at Ambersaye, and Lady Ottoline had been sitting in it since 11 with 3 ladies of the county and the tea things. The household book lay open on the table under the long window. Miss Weld, do not go by. Honoria stopped with her father's writing box against her chest. There is a letter going about this county about you. Ottoline had it there in her hand. I will not have a thing said behind a woman that is not said in front of her. Hear it and answer it, and these ladies shall carry the answer home. She read it out slowly and beautifully, in the voice she kept for the lesson at church, a family of servants with the sole keeping of a parish book for 13 years, an entry written into it lately by Simeon Weld, deceased, the same produced wet by his daughter on the very day of a claim. Then she took a small breath and read the last of it as well, that the daughter had been seen alone with the Duke of Ambersaye at 11 at night, and that a young woman without a shilling might reasonably hope to be thanked. 2 housemaids had stopped on the stairs with their arms full. Mr. Corbett stood in the passage door with his eyes on the flags. Well, Ottoline said, deny it. I am giving you the room. "It is not true," Honoria said, "and there is nothing in it to take hold of, which is why it was written. That is not a denial, that is a lecture." Ottoline turned the household book round and dipped the pen. "Mrs. Hurst, the muniment room." "Weld H," the housekeeper said, very low. "Muniments £40 and the rooms over the arch. Louder, if you please." Mrs. Hurst said it again to the whole hall. Lady Ottoline drew the pen through the line twice, and sanded it, and turned the book so that the three ladies could see the name with the 2 strokes across it. "Struck off," she said. "Now nobody need wonder." "And the box. Nothing of this house goes out of it in a box. It is my father's." "Then it will be quick." The footman had it away from her before she had decided anything, and set it down and turned it over. Her father's spectacles went across the wood and off the edge, and the quills after them, and the pounce box came open on the flags and went out in a fan across 200 years of stone. Honoria knelt down in it and picked them up one at a time. One of the ladies laughed and turned it into a cough, and did not manage it. Lady Ottoline stayed on her feet the whole while, because standing was the better position for it. Honoria's face was wet before she had the spectacles, and she put no hand up to it, because to wipe it would have been to agree that the hall could see. "The glass," Ottoline said, and held it to the window. "Estate property?" "He bought it in Salisbury, out of his own wages." "Then keep it." She put it into Honoria's hand from above, and closed the fingers over it, and patted them. "I would not have it said that I took anything from you." She went to Salisbury on the Tuesday mail, outside, for 4 and 6pence, with her father's glass in her pocket, and £11 in the world. The diocesan registry was 2 rooms in the close, with a smell of dust and cold stone, and a clerk of about 60 who had been asked for a great many strange things, and enjoyed none of them. Bishop's transcripts. Ambersay, the year 9. Deanery? Amesbury. The bundle would have gone up at Easter of the year 10, tied with the rest of the deanery, endorsed by the 2 churchwardens. The clerk looked at her over the top of his spectacles with the first flicker of interest. "You have done this before. My father did it for 22 years, and he made me learn the endorsements before ever he let me touch a pen. Then you may as well come through." He took a candle he did not need, out of habit. "You are the second person to want that bundle this summer. A gentleman 3 weeks ago who would not give a name, and offered me 2 guineas for the whole year out of the cupboard for an afternoon. And you refused." 41 years I have been in this room, miss," the clerk said. "If a thing can be had for 2 guineas, it is not worth 2 guineas. The bundle was where it should have been. He untied it on the sloping desk, and turned the sheets with a bone folder, and there was Ambersay, and there was the year, and there in the parish clerk's small even writing, under the endorsement of 2 churchwardens, who had both been dead since the year 12, was the entry: Allard Reed and Ottoline Marchmont. The 22nd of June, written up at Easter, and sent to the bishop 7 years ago, the clerk said. Not out of this cupboard since. Will you make me an office copy under the registrar's seal, and will you write on it the day and the hour you made it, and your own name? That is 10 shillings and 6pence. She put the money on the desk in silver, which was most of what she had, and watched him count it, and did not let her face do anything. And the year 7, she said. Ambersay, I want the whole year, and I want you to certify that there is nothing in it. Certify a nothing? A negative under seal is the only kind of nothing worth carrying, she said. 10 and 6 again, and I will wait while you write it. She came out into the close at 4, with 2 sheets in an oilcloth wallet, and she stood a moment and looked up at the spire because she had been raised in a house that thought looking up was for other people. Then she took the mail home and sat outside in the rain for 4 hours and did not mind it at all. The commission sat again on the last Tuesday in August, in the long gallery, because the muniment room would not hold the county. They had come from as far as Devizes. There were 40 chairs, and there were not enough. The proctor sat at a table with the register in front of him, and the enrolled certificate beside it, and Mr. Bassett at his elbow, and Dr. Amory awake for once. Lady Ottoline sat with Julian beside her, in a new blue coat, because she was not a fool. And the boy swung his boots and looked at the ceiling. The Duke sat where he was put, and looked at the door. Honoria came in at noon in the slate-blue gown with no apron over it, and stood at the end of the table, because a woman who is not employed anywhere has to stand somewhere. Miss Weld is no longer in the service of this estate, Mr. Bassett said. She attends as a witness on her own account. On whose summons? The proctor said. On none, Honoria said. I have come on my own legs. If you will not hear me, I will go out again, but you will have to say the words in front of these people. The proctor considered her for a moment. Sit down, madam, or stand if you would rather. Lady Ottoline, you have something to say first, I understand. Ottoline rose. I have. That book was written on by a servant of this house. She did not look at Honoria. Simeon Weld had the keeping of it for 11 years, and there is not 1 hour of those years in which he was watched. I say the entry of the year 9 is his work. I say it was put in lately. And I say his daughter produced it, wet, at noon, on the day of my son's claim, and has since been dismissed from her place for it. I was not dismissed, Honoria said. I resigned, and Mr. Bassett has my letter, and it is dated, and it gives the reason. You may answer in your turn, the proctor said. I will answer that one now, because it is the only one that matters, and because if I sit down with it unanswered, every person in this gallery will spend the next 10 minutes deciding what to think of me instead of listening. Go on then. She untied the oilcloth wallet and laid the first sheet on the table and turned it round so that it faced the proctor and not her. Every parish in the kingdom sends the bishop a copy of its register every year. Ambassadors for the year 9 went up to Salisbury with the Amesbury bundle at Easter of the year 10, endorsed by 2 churchwardens, written by the parish clerk, and it has lain in a cupboard in the close from that day to this. My father never had it. Her ladyship never had it. That is the registrar's office copy, taken out on the 19th of this month at 11 in the morning, under his seal with his name on it. The proctor broke the seal with his thumbnail and read it again, and passed it to Mr. Bassett, without a word. And that, Honoria said, laying down the second sheet, is a certificate under the same seal that the Ambersay transcript for the year 7 contains no marriage of Lord Allard to anybody, because there was none. Somebody at the back of the gallery said something out loud, and somebody else said hush. There were 2 ceremonies, Ottoline said. My lady? There were 2. Her voice had not risen, and her hands had not moved. A private one in the spring of the year 7, before he went out to Spain, and a public one in the year 9 when his father was reconciled to it. It is not uncommon. It is not possible, Honoria said. A marriage in this kingdom since the Marriage Act must be in the parish church, after banns or by license, and it goes into the register at the time. And it is signed by the parties. Your certificate names St. Aldhelm. There is no other book. If there had been a wedding there, that spring it would be on that page, and it would be at Salisbury, and it is in neither. And I have brought you the paper that says so. That proves only that a clerk was careless. Then here is the last of it, and it is not about clerks at all. Honoria looked at Mr. Bassett. Will you hold the certificate up to the window, sir, and tell the room what is in the paper? The old solicitor got up and did it, and his hand was not quite steady. There is a maker's watermark, he said. It reads 1811. The gallery made a noise like water going out of a bath. The certificate swears to a day in May, 4 years earlier, the proctor said. It is written on paper that did not exist. Yes, said Honoria Weld, and I am going to tell you who wrote it, before her ladyship does, because she has been saving it for me, and I would rather it came out of my own mouth. The room went quiet in a new way. It was written by my father. Nobody had expected that, including Ottoline, who turned her head for the first time. This is his practice sheet, 11 lines of the same words, learning a hand that was not his, and the first 3 are still his own. She set it down. I found it in his desk a fortnight ago, and I have not slept much since. So you have your servant with a pen. He is the man in this cause who forged a document. I am his daughter, and I keep his books, and I have said it standing up in front of you, and now nobody in this county can enjoy telling you afterwards. The proctor said, quite gently, Miss Weld. Do you know why he did it? I know where the answer is. She turned. Your Grace, when the order came to me, it was sealed with the stag, and that seal lives in your father's writing box, in the yellow closet, which you have not been able to open since March. Whoever pressed that wax had the box open in June, and the day book for the year 11, in my father's own hand, has 1 leaf cut out of it close to the sewing, and the cut is white, not brown. White, you are asking me to open my father's box in front of 40 people. I am asking you to open it, she said, because I have been telling this room all afternoon that a record is not a memory, and that it is a promise made to people who are not born yet, and I would be a hypocrite if I let you keep one shut because it will hurt. He got up. Corbett gave him the key without being asked, which was the bravest thing the steward ever did. The box came in and stood on the table among the papers, walnut, scratched, with a broken hinge. He opened it. There were spectacles in it, and stubs of black wax, and the stag seal, and a lock of pale hair tied with thread, and folded in 4 underneath them all, a leaf of ruled paper cut close along one edge. He unfolded it. He read it to himself first, which she was glad of, and then he read it to the gallery in a voice that did not do anything at all. The 29th of March, the year 11, Weld to write out an Ambersae certificate for Lady Allard, dated back to the year 7, against the chance that Allard does not come home from Spain. The boy is my son's, and he shall not be a nobody in his own house. He stopped. Then he went on. Told Weld, it is my doing, and not his. He would take nothing for it, and asked me to set it down here that he did it under my order and against his judgment, so I have set it down. He said a record that lies must be marked. God forgive us both. Nobody in the long gallery moved for a long moment. Then Julian Marchmont, who was 9 and had been counting the panes, said, Mamma, is that about me? And his mother put her hand over his and said, Yes, be quiet now. My lady, the proctor said, do you wish to say anything? Ottoline stood up. She looked down at the leaf lying among the papers, and at the boy, and at nobody else. He gave it into my hand in that closet in the November before he died, she said, and told me to keep it and never show it while he lived. He was the only person in this family who ever called my son by his name. Her chin came up. I have done what I have done. I would do most of it again. I will not say I would do all of it. Then this commission has heard enough, the proctor said. The petition fails. The gallery began to move, and 40 people began to be very interested in their gloves, and the Duke stood up. Before anybody leaves this room, they stopped. There is a letter going about this county which says that Miss Weld wrote that entry to please me, and that a woman with no fortune might hope to be thanked. 9 of you have read it. 2 of you heard it read out for sport in my own hall, and laughed at a woman on her knees, and I know your names. He was not loud. He had never once been loud. So here is what I mean to do, and you will all be able to say you heard it. I will lay no information against anybody. Not against her ladyship, and not against a dead man. My brother's boy keeps his name and chalky and 1,200 a year, and I will hear no discussion of it at any table in Wiltshire. Mr. Bassett put down his pen. And I intend to marry Miss Honoria Weld, publicly in the parish church after banns, in front of every one of you, and without one word of apology to anybody. Somebody's chair went over. She has cost me my brother's son. She has told this room that her own father forged a paper, when she might have burned the sheet in a grate, and no living creature would have known. That is what I am choosing. Say it in those words when you say it, because you will all say it before Sunday, and it had better be said correctly. The proctor said into a silence, Miss Weld, have you anything to say to that? Yes, Honoria said. No, the Duke turned round. Not here, she said. Your Grace, everything in this room today has been about what a paper is worth. And if I say yes, standing at the end of your table, an hour after you have won, then every person in this county will know until I die exactly what I was paid and what for. That is not what it is. I know quite well what it is. I am telling you what it looks like, and you have had 5 months of learning that those are not the same thing. She picked up her wallet and tied it. Come and ask me when I have nothing of yours. No keys, no wages, no roof. Ask me when there is not one single thing you can give me that I need. Then it will be a question and not a payment, and I will answer it, and you may hear my answer before anybody else does. She went out through the middle of them, and nobody spoke until she had gone down the whole length of the long gallery, and her boots were the only sound in it. He came on the Thursday to the little house in the village where she had taken a room for 6 shillings a week, and he came on foot, without a hat, and he knocked on the door like a person. Miss Weld, I have nothing of yours. You have not. I have not employed you since the 14th. Bassett has your letter and your character in his own hand, and you have been offered a place by the Dean of Salisbury, which I heard of on Tuesday and did nothing whatever about, and which you may take on Monday if you like it better. He offered me £90, she said. A good room, too. It faces north. Which is right for it. It is a very good room. Ask me then. He filled the doorway of a room with a truckle bed and a jug in it, 34 years old, deaf in one ear, with 4,000 acres, and no idea at all what to do with his hands. Honoria, I have wanted you since the night you stood in that room and lied to my face for a good reason. I have made a fool of myself over you in front of a proctor. I am not offering you a settlement or a rescue or a roof, because you have told me plainly what those are worth. I am asking whether you will have me. On what terms? On any terms you name, and I will keep them, and I have no second offer to make if this one is refused. Then here they are, and there are 3, and you will hear all 3. She was not quite steady, and she did not pretend otherwise. You will put that register back in the parish chest at St. Aldhelm where it belongs, under 3 keys, and none of them will be mine. Second, you will never again ask anybody in your house to do a thing on a paper you have not signed with your own hand. And third, you will say it in front of them again in a year, she said, when it has stopped being a gallant thing to do. Done, done, and done. He took one step. May I? Yes, said Honoria Weld, and did not wait for him to finish it, and put her hands up to a duke's face in a rented room over a village shop, and after a while the jug went into the basin, and neither of them attended to it. They were married at St. Aldhelm in the spring after banns on a Tuesday. The entry went into the book on the printed form, and the 2 of them signed it themselves, witnessed by Josiah Corbett, steward, and by Cecil Bassett, gentleman, who wept and said it was the dust. The household book was ruled off and begun again that quarter, and the old page was not carried forward. Lady Otterline took Julian to Chalke. She found that the county called on her exactly as often as before, and stayed exactly 11 minutes. She grew roses very well, and was asked about them and about nothing else for the rest of her life. The boy did better. He was told all of it at 15 by his uncle, sitting on a step in a stable yard, and he took a commission in the Rifles and wrote home twice a month, and Ambersay was always his to come to. Mr. Corbett kept the yellow closet locked for another 9 years, and died in his own bed, which is more than most brave men get. And on a bright afternoon in the 2nd summer of their marriage, the Duchess of Ambersay walked down to St. Aldhelm, with the keys of the parish chest carried by 3 other people, and opened the register, and turned to the newest page, and cut a quill, and copied out one line, her own name, and his, and the day, and the 2 witnesses under it. She sanded it. She shook the sand off. She folded it once and put it in her pocket, where it stayed. So tell me what you would have done in that muniment room at 11 o'clock at night. Would you have put the book on the fire as you were ordered, and kept your place and your £40 a year and your father's good name? Or would you have sat down with a wet pen and copied out the one line that would cost you all 3? Leave your answer below, and if this story kept you company tonight, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and put the bell on so the next one comes and finds you.